Welcome, everyone. It's the 7th of February, Super Bowl Sunday. Sorry, 8th February. What am I saying? 8th February, Super Bowl Sunday. And I know everybody's probably out there already watching the pre-game stuff. I'm probably just running in circles here, but wanted to go ahead and talk about something that's on my mind today. So, one of the big things is, I keep hearing now a little bit about more and more stuff coming out about the Epstein files. And we all want to know, when did they know, who knew, and how much did they know? But there's other questions I have too. But y'all, in case you didn't know it, this is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. And I am the educated hillbilly. No, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. I'm coming at you live from Tunnel Hills, Kentucky, where we are dedicated to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, y'all. Because, nothing is better than all of us being able to pursue those three pursuits. But we can't do it if we're not all here to serve one another. And I'm here to serve with honor. I've been dedicating my life to this since I was 18 and first raised my right hand, swore an oath to the Constitution that I would protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I just really loved serving the nation for over 20 years. Until I retired in 2014 from the military, from the Hospital Corps of the Navy, where I served with the Navy and Marines in combat. But y'all, nothing's better for the soul than serving our neighbors with that love and honor. So honor is a key thing. So, the Epstein files got me thinking about how much honor or lack thereof we now know that people that are some of the richest, they don't have honor. They don't have integrity. They don't have commitment. Definitely don't have any courage. No one has courage to stand up for those young girls and to make sure that they get their justice. But there is another aspect of our culture where it's not what do you know, but who do you know sometimes. And that comes to getting jobs, right? That comes to getting connections to hook you up with folks that'll get you those jobs, making those networks. And what do we see? These billionaires, man, they know how to network. And they know how to save each other's ass when they do the most vile and repugnant things in their network. So what does that tell me? It tells me we, average Americans, we need a better network of honest, honorable people. Now, where should this network start? I think it needs to start from our earliest age. It needs to start where we spend most of our times as youngins, and that's in school. We have not enough folks teaching not enough folks in education. We don't have enough folks who see education and being an educator as being one of the most honorable professions in the world. And that's how I see it. Um, so we need to have more people recognizing that education is a high honor. Now, my papa was a country doctor, and he was hoping that I was going to take his place, in his clinic in Kentucky, in rural Kentucky. And, way life goes, I didn't do that, but I did end up practicing medicine in the Navy from 1990s all the way till I retired in 2014. I joined the Navy in 1990. So I got to understand, yes, Papa was right when he said that medicine was the most honorable profession in the world. Or was he almost right? I think there's one right next to it, and that's education. Now, Papa was so enamored with the honor of his profession, the way he practiced medicine, that he believed it was, he said, more honorable even than his brother's profession. And his brother had been a minister, preacher, missionary. Their dad was a primitive Baptist Universalist missionary in Eastern Kentucky. But he felt that his calling in medicine was above that higher calling. Well, I agreed with him at the time, but since I have switched careers from military medicine over to being an educator, I've come to realize that this is a highly honorable and just dearly underpaid, underserved profession. There's nothing to me that has given me more satisfaction than teaching in a school where kids don't expect the best of anything, underserved, underprivileged school, and to be able to inspire young minds to learn and hopefully to be that doctor, that lawyer, that engineer. But let's don't forget the education realm, profession. I hopefully can inspire some kids to be teachers just like me. Hopefully they see enough of my commitment and my love of this profession and want to get into education too. But why don't they? That's the question. Now, over the years, even before I became a teacher, when I studied nursing in college, I found that, the professions that, of course, this is in the 90s, that were traditionally female dominant in their numbers were the lowest paid. In America, if they're the lowest paid, that meant they were the least respected. So two of those professions, nursing, education, female dominant, lower paid, even though they are very taxing and tiring jobs if you do them. But there's also a lot of fulfillment in them. If your heart is in it, in nursing and teaching, you can get a whole lot of self-fulfillment, self-actualization through work in these fields. But, now the thing is, the trend is interesting. It used to be if you were living in a rural area, like Hardin County, Kentucky, like other rural counties I've lived in Kentucky, where my family hails from, rural Kentucky, ancestors buried in the cemetery, the old cemetery in the hill in Elizabethtown. I've got other ancestors in Morgan County, Elliott County, Carter County, many other counties. too numerous to mention, in the eastern part of the state. But these ancestors, they began to realize education was very important for their kids. They wanted their kids to have more in life. So in my family, on my dad's side, they started becoming educators. Number one, educators, teachers are in rural Kentucky and much of rural America. Your educational systems are your largest employers. The public school system in most counties in America is the largest paying employer, and then either tied or right behind that would be your healthcare delivery systems. That's where your doctors, your nurses, your CNAs, your LPNs, social workers, and all these folks are employed, right? But in rural counties, for the longest time, they had a higher percentage of college graduates that were educators, had a degree in education. Well, now the numbers are falling. Number one, not as many women are going into education as they used to, since they're now finding fulfilling roles as doctors, engineers, lawyers, other positions that used to be male dominant are now seeing a large influx, an equal influx of women, which is a great thing. But we're leaving behind, sadly, almost in the dust, this honorable profession of education. And then we wonder why our rural areas lack good education. Now that we don't have folks in rural areas getting the degrees in education and coming back to their home rural counties. So, Kentucky recently, last few years, 7 years ago, I believe it was, they had such a shortage of teachers in this state that they decided to lower the standards for teaching requirements. So it used to be that you had to get a master's degree in Kentucky. That started in the early 1990s with an initiative where one of our great governors came up with an initiative where all teachers, they wanted to stay in this profession, they could enter with a bachelor's, but in a certain amount of time, they had to have a master's if they were going to stay in the profession. Well, we rolled that back 7 years ago, rolled it back to being bachelor's degree was the requirement for being a teacher, right? At the same time, we also were not coming up with enough programs to fill these teacher slots, even if it's just a bachelor's degree. Now, has teaching suffered from master's level requirements to bachelor's requirements? That's a question to be debated. I still feel strongly that the master's degree was a great requirement because, number one, people with master's degree have to be paid more. And why do we not have enough people going into the teaching professions? Well, because for studying the same amount of time, they can get a master's in business and go make a killing on Wall Street or in other financial firms. Or for the same amount of time, they can go to law school, make a killing, make much more than a teacher makes. You look at so many different levels of degrees where master's is the requirement, same amount of time to study. And if you get that master's, you're going to have double or triple the salary that a teacher makes in most of America. So we don't honor our teachers enough. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a teacher. I knew this before I came into the profession, and I'm in it for the love of the profession and the love of helping young folks who had opportunities or didn't have opportunities, that I never got. So because as I've talked about here before, my mom went off the deep end, left her family, um, and her second husband she married. They were both anti-education, anti-establishment, in the fact that they wanted, to drop everything and leave the world behind, as if that's actually possible, and just wait for the second coming. Well, in the meantime, we starved. We didn't get educated. I don't want to see that happen to anyone else. So I love this profession. I love being able to be someone who makes sure that folks have a better chance than I did through education. But there's other folks out there, they don't have this as a second profession like I do. I'm getting a small retirement check monthly from my retirement from the military. That helps me to be able to make this choice. I can live off a teacher's salary since it's augmented by my small military pension. Other folks don't have that. That master's degree ensured that at least there be somewhat of a pay bump for every teacher that has a master's degree and is master's degree certified. The folks that have a bachelor's degree and teach, they don't make as much as those with a master's degree. And so what do we need to do? Well, number one, places that actually value teachers in the world, like Finland, all the Scandinavian countries, but especially Finland, like South Korea, and even Japan, their teachers are valued just as much as their doctors and their lawyers and their engineers. Their status in society is right level with that, and their pay is commensurate with that status, with that honor that they receive for being teachers. Do they have stricter standards for their teachers? Some places I've heard they do. I know Finland constantly is evaluating their teachers, making sure they're keeping up. I happen to teach in a school system where we're constantly being evaluated as teachers, constantly planning. We are very, very, very professional. We have daily meetings on the status of our lesson plans, on the status of our students' outcomes according to our lessons. So we are very, very professional. Are we paid commensurate with lawyers? No. Do I think that we should be? Well, I think that you wouldn't have a good lawyer or a good doctor or a good engineer if you didn't have good teachers to begin with. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's back to, it's not what you know, but who you know. So we need a network of citizens who say, hey, since the largest employer in our county is our healthcare system and our public school system, let's lift these folks up. Let's make sure that we want our kids back here in the county after they graduate from college. Hopefully they go to college. Well, how do we entice them to come back? Well, let's make sure that we pay the best pay to our groups that hire folks the most in this county, and that is our public school system and our healthcare system. But healthcare systems are already doing well by their folks. We also need programs like we have in Berea, Kentucky, where the kids that are in the poverty class or lower echelons of the lower middle class, there's a means test. And if you go to Berea College, if you're accepted into that college, you have to have the best grades, and your parents can't be rich. Can't even be the top of the middle class. You go there, you get a free college education. You'll get that bachelor's degree for free. You'll have to work 10 hours a week while you're in college to do it. But that's your payment, nothing else. We could do that more places in this nation if we were dedicated more to the outcome of our students, rather than the status of the looks of our schools. If we weren't so concerned with, oh, does our school have the best, I don't know, what skating rink or what other gimmick colleges come up with to get students to go to their school? How about this college has one of the best educations and it's free? You're going to rise from poverty class. And as Berea says, they make sure that all their students are so well educated and so successful in the future that their kids will not be able to attend Berea. There are no legacy students at Berea College. The legacy of Berea is there are no rich parents whose kids get in, even though the kids might not know anything, but they're going to get into the college, like you hear happening at Stanford, Yale, UCLA, all these schools where the legacy students, because their parents are rich as heck, guarantee their kids get in no matter what. That doesn't happen at Berea. We need to have more colleges like that. That's a bright and shining beacon in Kentucky, and it should be a shining beacon for the whole nation of how to educate folks, raise them up. And they still have to work at it. So you can't give me this nonsense of, oh, there's nothing free in life. Yeah, they know that when they work 10 hours a week at Berea for their degree. Y'all, if you have any other ideas on how we could fix this crisis, create a network, because everyone in Berea then has a network of alumni where they shared the same experiences in college. All of them start off in the same economic class and rose out of it. They do donate back to their school so they can pass on, pay it forward. We need more of that in this nation. All right. Hey, we got one person watching early today. Thank you, Copycats. Copycat says, hi all, and you're right. They have absolutely no concept of honor. Yeah. So how do we create a larger class with honor? That's through education, real education, not just legacy education like the Epsteins, the president and vice president's family get in their Ivy League schools that they just got there because their parents paid for them to get there. Copycats, one good teacher can change the course of a child's whole life. And that's absolutely it. And in the district that I teach at all times, we are pushed to make sure we are that means of change for each kid's life. It's mandatory. It's essential. Y'all, trying to keep it short today. Hopefully you have a great time. May your team win. I know for me, it's just mainly going to be, I want to see the ads and I want to watch the halftime show. Can't wait to see Green Day and Bad Bunny. Should be a good time. I'm going to join my friends and my wife, my youngin'. We're going to go to the VFW in Vine Grove, have a good time watching the game there. It's usually a hoot and a holler. All right, y'all. Remember, we are in this together. Because in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. We love our neighbors as ourselves in Kentucky. And in Hardin County, we know that loving our neighbors as ourselves keeps us united so we don't fall. Therefore, we are our brother's keeper and we are our sister's keeper. Y'all, please hit the like and subscribe. Make about an 8-word comment, if you would, in the comment section there in YouTube. And enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. Bless your corazon. Thanks to you, Copycats. Yep, I'll have fun with the game.
Are you cold? Are you cold? Oh my God.